Last week on the show, we caught up with 1967 Yankee first-round pick and the first designated hitter in Major League Baseball history, Ron Blomberg. Here's part two of that interview. You know, both you and Munson, first overall picks. You were the first pick in 1967, and you know, the back-to-back years for the Bombers, but you really could not have been more of an odd couple. And the book really speaks to that.
Oh, we were. It was very, very simple. I got drafted in 67. He got drafted in 68. I came out of high school. He came out of college, Kent State. We became very, very good friends in 69 and down in spring training. So right off the bat, we love to fish. We love to play golf. We love to eat. We love restaurants. So being Jewish and having Fort Lauderdale was our training camp, and Miami was right next to us, like baby New York. I took him to all the delis down there. I introduced him to the matzo ball soups, the pastrami's, the corned beefs, the half sours, the Dr. Browns. He had no idea what that was. The knishes had no idea what it was. And I mean, he fell in love with the dish. He fell in love with the food. And when I got to play with him, we became roommates. He took me to the great places in Ohio, in the Midwest. He took me to White Castle. White Castle was a big thing in the Midwest. He took me to the little hamburger places. But we became very, very close. We did so many things together. Our families did so many things together. You need to read that book. The book is unbelievable. It's great. It's been on #1 for Amazon. You'll love it.
So Ron, like you just said, I mean, it is a terrific book. I'm not just saying that. I really enjoyed it. And I know that it is co-written, but I can tell that it's in your very own words. And I love some of the stories, too. I love the run-in with George Steinbrenner over the haircuts back in the day, too. That was a great story.
Oh, he made us get it. He called us in his office. It was myself. It was Piniella. It was Nettles. It was Catfish. It was Thurman and myself. It was in August. I was hitting 400 in August, 406. Thurman was hitting the ball extremely well, hitting over 300. It was Piniella was hitting the ball, and Nettles, and of course Catfish. And he wanted us to get a haircut. We said, "Screw you! We're not going to get a haircut." Hey, I'm hitting 406. So I mean, he calls us up to his office, and he said, "You need to get a haircut." I broke my haircut guy. You're going to get a haircut. We looked at him. We said, "Absolutely not." We walked out, and we looked at each other and said, we thought, is he going to release everybody, or is he going to trade everybody? Or, I mean, we had no idea, to be honest with you. We go down to the locker room. We forget about it. The next day we come back. He had like a little letter in our locker, and we looked at it, and we looked at each other. I said to Thurman, Thurman, did we get released? Did we say something incorrectly? He said, I don't know. I'm going to open it up. He opened it up. A $100 bill fell out. I opened up mine. It's a $100 bill. And back then, that was a lot of money. Back then, that was a lot of money to us, okay? And he gave everybody $100, and he wrote on the letter, he said, I respect y'all. Now you just better bust your butt, and you better win for me. And we did. And he became a very, very different. George Steinbrenner was wonderful to us. He was tough. He was hard-nosed, but that was the type of guy he was. He wanted to bring a winner back to New York and back to the Yankee fans, and he did that.
For many baseball fans that may not be as into the Yankees and know your story, you're often just credited with this one amazing event in history, but you were a darn good baseball player, a perennial 300 hitter when you were healthy, and you ended up having to retire so young at the age of 30 because of injuries.
Well, unfortunately, I gave 120%. Unfortunately, I ran into a wall in spring training that really messed up my leg. And then I hit a home run. Well, before I hit a home run in Milwaukee, and I tore my shoulder up. And back then, we didn't have the modern technology for to rehab. They had to cut into my shoulder. They had to, my tendon was completely severed. They had to tie my tendon back into what they call the humerus. That's on the side of your arm. And I couldn't throw after that. They put me on first base, and that's not the easiest position to play. And people think it's easy. You just catch a throw. When you have to catch a throw from Greg Nettles, where it sinks, and you have to catch a ball from from Stick, and the ball, it fades away. And then you had Willie Randolph, at second base, and he throws like sliders at you. And then you have pitchers like Sparky, and then you had Catfish, and you had Tidrow, and you had all those guys, and those balls sink. Hey, look at all the first basemen as the Yankees try to get in there now. It's not easy to play that position when you've been in the outfield your whole life. And, playing first base, you got like 70 feet, 60, 70 feet away from the pitcher. And he's throwing the ball 90 miles an hour at you. So that's not easy. But unfortunately, I was injured. I gave everything I had. I played up in the big leagues going on 9 years, and I was injured quite a few times. But there's one thing people got to say. I gave 120%. I love the fans, and they took care of me even when I was injured. And to this day, those are the people that made me, to be honest with you, Robert. And those are the guys who are the heroes. I played a fantasy. I played something what I wanted to do. I lived a dream. I got to put on the Yankee pinstripes. I got to play in Yankee Stadium. I got to play in the stadiums that Ruth built. I got to play in the greatest fans in the whole wide world. And being Jewish, living in New York City, I had it made, because I think I was at every bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, and every Jewish wedding. I always lit a candle. So I was related to every Jewish person in New York City. So I had a great time. Even I come back to New York, they're great to me. And these are my family. This is my family, Robert.
We're up against it in terms of time, Ron, but how often do you think about that day, April 6, 1973 at Fenway Park, when you become the first DH in Major League Baseball history?
I screwed up the game of baseball in 73. I had no idea that the DH was going to be 48 years later. I thought it was going to last like 6 to 8 months. I thought it was just a glorified pinch hitter. That's what it was. But now it's a position player. Now you got Edgar Martinez, of course, in the Hall of Fame. You're going to have David Ortiz, probably the next DH to be in the Hall of Fame. But the good part about it was, whenever it was cold in a city that I had to be a DH, I wasn't stupid. Elston Howard said, "You need to get back into the clubhouse." I went back into the clubhouse, and I always wound up eating the players' food that we had after the game. And like, if people read my book, the first chapter about eating devil legs, and I ate all the devil legs up in Boston, where everybody got mad at me. But hey, I'm sitting there listening to the game. I'm not playing in the game. I'm just hitting in the game. But sitting up there eating, it was wonderful. But the DH is going to be universal next year, and it's going to be it's here to stay. But I screwed up the game. I tell everybody I screwed up the game of baseball in '73, but I love it.
I don't think you did it all, Ron. I think it's definitely something to feel good about. I mean, DH is a great thing, I think, for the game. It's allowed a lot of players a chance to extend their careers.
Oh, they're making a lot more money than I did. I go back to New York to Yankee Stadium, and I always go to the finance department. I always ask them. They still have my meal money. Let me tell you something. Real quick. But in '73, I had $329, and they gave me a $500 raise. The next year, I had $311, and they took my $500 back. And the next year, I had $301. They didn't even talk about a raise to me. But just think, I'm not going to say a player's name, but a guy was hitting like a $140, and they gave him like a $2.5 million raise. That's pretty good, But hey, I was on the greatest era in the game of baseball.
Well, Ron, the book is great. Your story is great. And of course, that friendship with Thurman Munson is phenomenal. The Captain of Me is filled with untold stories about Thurman Munson's analytical yet hard-nosed approach to baseball, as well as his kindness and generosity off the field. It is available at Triumph Books, as well as all major retailers, including Amazon. Thanks again, Ron. Always great to see you.
Thank you very much, Robert.